Hello, I'm Chatzigakis. I'm the Senior Sustainability Manager at the American College of Greece, and I will be moderating the first panel on sustainability, a spherical discussion. So I would like to invite to the stage the fellow speakers. Dr. Stella Apostolaki, Executive Director of the Center of Excellence in Sustainability and Coordinator of the Environmental Studies Program. Mr. Albertus Rebach, Founder and Investments Director, Humboldt Holdings, Luxembourg. Mr. John Eliopoulos, CEO and Co-Founder We For All. And last but not least, Mr. Deree Fashion, Sustainability and Corporate Responsibility Manager of Apivita. I don't like being alone. I'll join the company. First of all, I would like to thank you all for being here and being around of esteemed professionals and like-minded people, friends of the panel, colleagues and business partners. It's sustainability time. We all been hearing and we all becoming more and more familiar with the terms climate crisis, climate change, societal crisis, caring for our future, of our environment, caring for future generations, caring for our planet. So the key to all this, we hear the word sustainability. We all should act sustainably in order to sustain our lives, our business, and our planet. We're here in Greece in 2022, so let's see where we are now. I would like to start with Dr. Apostolaki, just to how sustainability is addressed. You represent an academic institution, educational institution in Greece, so how sustainability is addressed in the educational sector in the ACG?
Yes, hello. Hello from me, I'm Stella Apostolaki. Let me very briefly introduce myself. I'm an assistant professor here at Deree in the Environmental Studies Program, and I'm coordinator of the Environmental Studies Program and executive director of the Center of Excellence in Sustainability. I would like to welcome you all to this event. Now, sustainability is very closely linked to education. We all know that sustainable development is a concept that is about addressing issues in a holistic way, taking into consideration environment, society, and economy. And of course, education could not be separated from this concept. So education is a concept embedded within sustainability, meaning that we cannot really achieve a good level of sustainability or development, sustainable development, without appropriate education. And the other way around, sustainability should use education as a means to reach out to the public, to people. Along this context, the United Nations have, as we all know, established the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This happened in 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals have been adopted by all the countries of the United Nations. European Union was a pioneer in that. They were behind the formulation of these 17 goals. One of the goals which is central and fundamental, I would say, for the achievement in all other goals is goal number 4, which is goal about quality education. The target, the sub-goal, the sub-target of goal number 4.7, is a goal that refers to holistic education, education addressed to all people, all levels, including academic education, university education, lifelong learning, public education, education to combat issues that are related to discrimination, to violence, to racism, to gender inequalities. So it is a very important target. Universities around the world are trying to work around this goal. Here at ACG we have made a lot of progress in that. First of all, we have included and adopted the sustainability concepts in a lot of our studies. The Center of Excellence in Sustainability is very closely linked to two programs that we have, the Environmental Studies program and the Biomedical Sciences program. These two programs include sustainability in the description, in their own program specifications and description, meaning that the courses in these programs cannot be taught without sustainability in mind, without our students learning about sustainability and the different aspects in the context of their own courses. Apart from that, ACG is working a lot on public education, on an outreach through events like the event that we are attending today, through initiatives that take place in our campus. Ms. Karidi referred to such initiatives and to such actions. She referred to the STARS award that ACG has gained, and she mentioned that we got this award also because of our performance in academic issues and research, which is mainly the core part of education. So the academic world is trying to become more sustainable, to teach sustainable development. This is a way forward. Here at ACG, I think we are a step ahead in this aspect because we have thought about that and we have planned for education and sustainable development since at least a decade ago.
That is correct. We were living in sustainability, I must confess. Mr. Revach, we have a new term today, nowadays. Apart from sustainability, we've moved to ESG. How sustainability, or ESG, which stands for Environment, Society and Governance, is addressing the investment sector?
Not enough, obviously. Quick introduction about me. I'm Alberto Revach. I went into sustainable investments about 6 years ago. I founded two investment companies out of Luxembourg. One called Humble Holdings, the other one called Humble Investments. And I invest only in ideas and businesses that are good for you, good for people, and good for the planet. Either mostly startups, but also in funds. So I tend to believe that there's a lot of discussion, not just in Greece, but of course globally, around sustainability, around ESG. A lot of banks have incorporated ESG into their investment strategies and criteria. But unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be enough regulation about what we actually mean when we say sustainability or ESG. And what I tend to see is that the more we advance the discussion about what sustainability is, the more we also advance the greenwashing efforts of a lot of companies who cannot become sustainable. Like really large corporations are impossible to make fully sustainable. So what they do is, because they have to do something, they like to talk a lot about it. The problem with this is that I don't think that government can regulate sustainability. It's a concept. Sustainability is a word, and you can do whatever you want with it. I personally don't like it, because what we have, if we say that we want to create a sustainable future, sustainable compared to what? Compared to today, which is unsustainable? Do we want to sustain word sustain means to keep the same. We cannot sustain this, what we're living through right now. We have to change things. But governments cannot act as the chaperones of this process. So we need more organizations, private organizations like universities, like B Corp. And I'm very glad that Sotiris is here today to talk about that, to guide us through the principles of true sustainability. And unfortunately, we also make a mistake. We tend to forget that sustainability doesn't mean eco-sustainability. It also means human sustainability. It also has to do with how we treat our workers, how we treat our people, how we pay them, how we educate them through the work. One of the core beliefs that I have is that, and it's going to sound kind of weird, but only investors can save the planet. And why do I believe that? Because when I say investors, I include shareholders in big corporations. Imagine if every shareholder in Coca-Cola all of a sudden said, no more plastics. I don't know, figure it out. Use recyclable cartons, or do something else. It's usually the shareholders that drive the companies, and it's the companies that drive even governments in the US. And they also drive consumer demand, consumer behavior. Consumer behavior is mostly attributed to advertising and, of course, education. So if investors put their money, and money makes the world go round, if investors put their money in the right places and in the right processes, the right companies, the right ideas, we could turn this thing around. And that's what I'm trying to do with my tiny little investments. But if everybody who has power and has money had the mindset of, I'm only going to invest in companies that do the right thing for people on the planet, true ESG, not just, paper ESG, then we could turn this thing around. That's what I think.
That's very interesting thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Arouch. And now I will pass the floor to a Greek company in Greece. How businesses in Greece see sustainability and how they address this concept, this idea.
Thank you, Rania. First of all, good morning, everyone. Thank you, American College of Greece and Chatzigakis Foundation for the invitation, and you personally, Rania. I know Rania very well, as we are both members of the Corporate Responsibility Committee of the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce. And I am able to say that Rania is by far the most focused professional I know, more than anyone else, to the 17th Sustainable Development Goal, as she always seeks for collaborations, for partnerships, for synergies, as proven by several initiatives she takes on the field. When the discussion comes to natural cosmetics industry, which is actually the sector where Apivita belongs to, sustainability does not only refer to the way an ingredient is sourced or how the product is produced, but also the materials we use in our production process, and of course the post-production phase of the product. So the 5 main sustainability pillars regarding Apivita sustainability strategy, which are or more or less common to the most cosmetics industries worldwide, is the product stewardship, responsible logistics, responsible manufacturing processes, sustainable sourcing, and of course initiatives regarding employees' well-being. For those who are not familiar, Apivita was the first B Corp certified, Greek B Corp certified company back in 2017. Last week we announced our recertification with the amazing score of 117.2 points, which is quite amazing because it's 38% better performance than the previous one back in 2017. B-Impact assessment is, in my personal opinion, by far the most strictest assessment you can find out there. It's consisted of more than 250 questions, 250 questions with document-based answers in 5 different pillars. On top of that, since March of 2022, Apivita is proud member of Be Beauty Coalition. Be Beauty Coalition is a network of B-certified beauty companies all over the world. There are about 34 or 36, if I remember well, most of them European. We work together to improve the sustainability standards, and the most important, we work together to propose to European Union the new framework regarding the sustainability reporting for the cosmetics industry. Apart from that, we conduct on a 2-year basis a sustainability report to inform our stakeholders about our environmental and social progress. I would like to mention that in 2021, Apivita, for the first time in its history, calculated the total carbon footprint emission as a result of its total business activities in scopes 1, 2, and 3, which came with an amazing primary data documentation of 65%. For those who run similar exercises, similar projects, they can understand how difficult it is to provide primary data more than 65%. To overpass this achievement and to meet the standards of the society, we have joined 2 global initiatives in order to address our commitment to addressing sustainability issues. The first one is Science-Based Targets Project, and the second one is the CDP questionnaire, the Carbon Disclosure Project questionnaire, which is running right now in Apivita and is quite challenging.
Thank you, Sotiris. Mr. Eliopoulos, you represent an NGO in Greece, We For All. So, how NGOs in Greece are addressing sustainability, are promoting sustainable practices?
Thank you very much. So, good morning from me. Short introduction. I'm John Eliopoulos. I am co-founder of the non-profit environmental organization We For All. And We For All was started after the fires of Mati, Attica in 2018. I approached the subject of sustainability from the standpoint of a normal civilian, a normal citizen, like most of us, who is watching our world change month by month, year by year, is watching the destruction of our forests and our natural resources happening all the time, and feeling helpless or feeling like nobody is doing enough. So it was my decision and my cousins at the time to initiate this organized effort to be the change that we wanted to see. So our main lines of operation was, and still is, tree plantings, reforestation activities in Greece and around the world, and most importantly, educating young children and educating all classes of people, raising awareness in regards to sustainability. Now, sustainability is a fancy word that it took me a while to understand what it actually means. But to me, it means to respect life, like to be in harmony with nature and other life forms. I mean, if one understands the basic concept that this equates to, then you know what to do, you know what has to be done. The respectable speaker before said something very, very correct, that investments and money around this world that we live in, so where money goes, change happens in that direction. Now I want to take it one step further, and I would say that yes, it's true, but if people demand things, if the preference of people goes in the direction of sustainability, if they stop using so much plastic, if they adjust their eating habits, and I'm not advocating anything regarding eating, but I can remember myself eating 3 times per day meat and 6 chicken legs per dinner, let's say. 6 chicken legs per dinner is 3 chicken. This cannot be sustainable for 8 billion people. So, In my humble opinion, the road to more sustainable living goes through more awareness, more education, and for this, like the educational institutions like the American College of Greece are doing a great work, and the more this happens, the more our world will change. I see it as an inevitability that our world will change. The only question is if it will change fast enough. So from our standpoint as We For All, we're trying to precipitate this change, and we have up-to-date educated about 35,000 children in a special seminar about our planet, about tree planting, about how to help people live a more sustainable life. And we have planted over 200,000 trees, which is just a tiny fraction of what we will plant this year. And the way that we did that was by what we call the Environmental Alliance of We For All, which is an alliance of mostly companies and institutions that recognize this need of change and that want to support our work. And I'm very thankful to all of them. So, yeah, this is my view on the subject.
Thank you. We need people like you in the community, and working together with you, it's a must. Another big issue that we're all facing, you've all mentioned that no one can do it alone, that we need cooperation. So we were talking about engagement of our people, engagement of the society. So I would like to ask Mr. Pastras, how Apivita engages its people in promoting sustainability and its overall community, and if at what level we are, what practices, or what we can do if we are not at the optimal level, what we can do, what we can advise other organizations to do in order for our members to be more engaged, for your members and the society to be more engaged.
Okay, thank you, Rania, for the question. I will refer to what we are doing in Apivita and offer some advices, if I can offer some advices. Okay, in my personal opinion, there are 4 basic steps. The first step is to define what is the company's long-term purpose. Why does a company do what it does? This answer must be shared on a regular basis with your employees. Not only this answer, but also your progress on the sustainable development journey. Also, any achievement of any goal. For example, in Apivita last week, during our certification announcement as a B Corp company, we celebrated along with our employees. The second step is to keep educating your employees. John mentioned about education. We also are big fans of education, not only to the society but also to our employees, educating them about the importance of sustainability and to create and enable systems which will allow them to adapt sustainability practice, sustainability habits in their daily work life. Towards this direction, we recently collaborated with Paul Polman, and we launched last February an ESG learning program available for all Apivita employees. The third and the most important, in my personal opinion, is to create and enable communication inside the company, within the organization. We call it sustainability team. We may find several of these teams in other companies like green team, CSR team, ESG teams. It's more or less the same, but it's way too important to bring together several employees, several colleagues from different departments. Our sustainability team is consisted from several departments such as production, logistics, supply chain, HR, of course, marketing, and sustainability. And of course, we are really proud of this team because No, I will tell it next week because we're really proud of this team. Last but not least, a company must act on employees' initiatives. When an employee sees that the positive impact of its social and environmental proposal, then he starts believing that he has a role to play. He starts being a member of this sustainability journey. On top of that, Apivita HR department has a great initiative. During the recruitment process, all of our candidates are strongly recommended to read our sustainability report before proceeding to the interview. With this method, with this practice, we are sure that our newbies, as we'll call them, newbies in the hive, are ready and familiar with our sustainability approach and with our sustainability strategy.
Dr. Apostolaki?
Yes.
How ACG engages its community or academic institutions in general?
Yes, I would say that as we have already mentioned, education has to be holistic, otherwise it does not address the sustainability elements. So education is changing, it is transforming nowadays. We cannot stay in these individual disciplines as we did in the past, but we have to face all disciplines from a holistic view, meaning that we have to address the environmental, the social aspect, and of course the economic aspect. Otherwise, if we do not focus also on economic growth, the whole construction of sustainability will collapse, because unfortunately or fortunately our societies are based on income and on the finances. So education should address all these aspects. There is an effort to go towards more transformative education in general. Here at ACG, we are trying to follow this approach. One thing that we do very well is to engage our students in several activities. The experiential learning that becomes bigger and bigger, and we're focusing more and more on that. Our campus is used in many occasions as a living lab, meaning that the students are either following experiments or projects that they are related to the life on the campus. Of course, we are very lucky to be in such a campus and to be near a forest, a protected area, or the protected area of Imitos. So we have a very nice natural environment, which of course we want to preserve, and we want our students to be, yes, and we want our students to know about it and to get to know how they could preserve it. But of course we go beyond that through several other initiatives. So we are learning by experience, both our students and us, their professors, and the rest of the staff. We are also trying to broaden our horizons regarding education. We have become partners of a big European initiative, the New European Bauhaus Initiative, which connects education and sustainability with beauty. It connects sustainability with art and culture. So we are trying to have the holistic approach that our society needs.
Thank you. Also, I want to add something that apart from the academic, our student life is full of sustainability, I would say. We have a dedicated group, the ACG Sustainability Leaders, that they're on a volunteer basis, and we are so proud of our students that apart from their academic requirements, they dedicate their times in giving back to the community. Mr. Eliopoulos.
Okay, so it was our initial vision to engage people, like to make people feel like we are all a big family, we are all living in the same home, which is this planet, and we wanted to create opportunities for people to be engaged in changing our planet and in helping. So we created various initiatives that had to do with that, and we started obviously with tree planting events and engaging the fire-afflicted communities. Primarily we started from the Mati area, Rafina, Marathon, etc. And later on we expanded in the broader Attica region and then all over Greece and now even in some countries abroad. So I was happy today to see some of our volunteers in this very room, and I'm very happy to see that the family is expanding. Of course, We For All is an all-embracive community. Like anybody who wants to help is a part of us. And of course, nowadays the world is very much revolving around the digital aspects of things. So many times we create initiatives that engage people digitally and gives them an opportunity to help, to assist, to raise awareness only through their phone. And as time passes, we're trying to do this more and more. Of course, at some point, it has to translate into physical action. In the same concept, we are addressing companies and their employees by webinars focused on specific matters, which always and continuously increase awareness. Of course, it is by now it shows that companies are the ones that are leading this effort towards sustainability. They are demanded by their public, by their clients to shift towards sustainability. They are demanded by their employees to shift towards sustainability, and now even they are required by the law to shift towards sustainability. And the more this happens, the more there is a demand to create engaging events and activities for their employees. We have done, like only this year, over 100 corporate events in nature mostly, engaging the people of companies into some activity that is assisting the planet, whether it's tree planting or watering the trees or cleanups and so on. And I expect that we will be doing that in an ever-growing way.
Thank you. Mr. Vach, you mentioned earlier that the crucial point is to care for our people, for our members. So how your organization or the investment sector is doing on the progress of engagement in this sector?
So let's start with one definition. What I do and what some other investors around me do is called impact investing. So impact investing focuses on a triple bottom line: profit, people, planet. Without profit, you're not making an investment, you're doing charity work, and that's great, but you have to define investment as something that's going to yield a profit at the end. But at the same time, you look at people and the planet that have to be equally important in an investment. So impact investors engage in two different dimensions. The first dimension is quite simple: trying to spread the word within the investment community. If everybody who is an investor, in a way everybody in this room is an investor. If you have any money in the bank, you're an investor. If every investor allocated a specific percentage, let's say 10% of the investment portfolio into impact investing, then change would be rapid. If we could increase that to 20, 30, 40%, then the change would be amazing and extremely fast, and we could resolve a lot of the issues that we're facing. So part of the engagement we try to have as impact investors is to discuss, and we always bring in the forefront the profit part to people who are not impact investors, because most investors care about the profit part. So we bring them ideas and examples of great investments that we have made in the impact investment sector that have yielded great profit and at the same time done good for people on the planet. So we try to convince more investors to invest part of the portfolio into impact investing. And there's a lot of ways you can do this. There's a lot of impact investment funds that you can invest in, or you can invest directly, co-invest with an impact investor into a project. That's one part of the engagement. The second part of the engagement we have is with startup founders. So startup founders, they're always looking for investors in their companies, and we mostly discuss things with people who have ideas which are sustainable, they're good for people, good for the planet. And what we try to do is we try to guide them into becoming even more sustainable in their ideas. Give you an example. One of my investments in Greece, actually, is called Planet Foods. It's a small startup that started 2 years ago by a guy called Greg Boudrakos. He had an idea. He wanted to create the first Greek vegan ice cream company and be 110% sustainable. And one of the things I always discuss is, how can we be even more sustainable than carbon neutral? Design a product to be as environmentally friendly as possible, then measure your impact and offset it by 110%. So if your product is designed in the right way, or your service is designed in the right way, it will have a low impact to begin with. Then you can measure that impact through life cycle assessment studies, for example, which has a cost, but it's not that prohibitive. And then go to We4All, plant some trees, which will give you some carbon credits, and offset the impact by 110%. That way, your product is not only not doing harm, but it's actually doing good for the planet. So he read about this somewhere, and he came to me, and he said, I have this idea for a vegan ice cream company that's going to be 110% sustainable. I'm like, okay, are you going to do an LCA? It's like, I'm very small, I can't afford the LCA, but I would love to do the offsets. So he went ahead, and he did a bunch of offsets. He created a vegan ice cream brand, which by definition has a much lower impact than milk. And cow's milk is one of the worst things for the environment. He uses only Greek ingredients, Greek oats for the milk. And the packaging he chose, he had to bring it from Canada because it couldn't be plastic. This had to be a biodegradable packaging, and he found a company in Canada that does these tubes for ice cream, which are made of paper, and the coating inside is made of sugar, 100% biodegradable. And I was very happy to invest in his company, in his idea. What I added, and that's the engagement part, I said, okay, don't forget about people. When he came to me, it was a solo act. Now he's going to open his first little shop down in Monastiraki. And I said, okay, when you hire your first people, which is going to be a driver to make deliveries and 2 people to scoop the ice cream in your shop, make sure you pay them a living wage. Don't pay them the minimum wage. It's going to cost you an extra $300-400 a month. And for the plan we have, it's not a big deal. But for these people, and for this idea, and for this investment, it's going to make a difference. So 2 angles to what an investor can do to engage. Engage with the investment community, try to convince more people to bring money into the space, and then all the investments that we make, we engage with the founders to make sure that they set up their companies in the right way.
Thank you. Profit is not our enemy anymore. And of course, the CFO and the CSO, the Chief Sustainability Officer, are now friends. Thank you very much. Well, we are operating, we are interacting with the Greek community, we're operating in the Greek society. So how has the Greek society adapted sustainability practices? Is there a progress of this in this area? Have you noticed any notable changes in the latest year? Mr. Iliopoulos.
That's a very good question. And as I think most of us know, Greece is not spearheading this change towards sustainability. Thankfully, the countries that we look up to for change, for example, America and the more Western and Northern European countries, they are rapidly evolving towards more sustainable operation and way of life. So I believe that change is happening in a fast pace. However, our mentality as a people is still a little bit too Mediterranean, you know, to say the least. Like it's I cannot explain how people still are going to the beach and leaving the coffee, you know, cup or the cigarette butts, you know, even though we have an idea how to address this very soon. And, you know, young people, like, it is bewildering to see that. However, there is change, and over the last, like, 3 years, especially COVID, had something to do with this change, you know, it made us think, it made us, there was a little reset, environmental reset happening in the world and in Greece. The disasters happening are forcing people to wake up to the, you know, to the alarming climate change of the planet. We saw this year that there were 2 seasons basically. One day we had our AC open for hot, and then next day we had to put it on cold, you know, there was no period without AC. So I think that people are waking up to this. And of course it is our duty as companies and as NGOs to keep on pushing this matter home, you know, to keep on showing to people what is happening before it's too late, basically.
Thank you. Sotiris?
I totally agree with John. I'm not so optimistic, but we must admit that the last 5 years there has been a lot of progress. Events like this, for example, there were about 1 or 2 per year, and now we can find 1 or 2 sustainability topic events per month. Sustainability is everywhere inside the companies. All the companies talk about their sustainability pillars, their sustainability strategy, their sustainability approach to the 17 SDGs. This was not the case 5 years ago. The consumers, the customers, ask more questions regarding our sustainability impact, our, for example, animal testing policy, our packaging policy, our production processes, how we respect the environment during the production of the products. The TV commercials, if you search out there, we can see 1 out of 4 TV commercials share a sustainability message, share an environmental message, share a social message. At the same time, each Greek company, each big Greek company has a sustainability or a CSR manager or a CSR executive. If you asked a CEO in a Greek company 5 years ago if we really need a CSR or a sustainability manager, he or she would probably say, no, I have my corporate affairs, I have my marketing manager, I have my PR manager, we don't need. But we must say that we have a big gap between the intentions and the actions. Albertos mentioned about the regulation. I totally agree with Albertos. There is a huge lack of regulation, especially in Greece. There are a huge gap of between intentions. Intentions are not enough anymore. We must act. I loved the motto of Nespresso, which is also a big corp company. Doing is everything. I totally agree with this. We must act, and we must act rapidly.
Thank you. Mr. Bach?
I think there is change, and I think it's to the right direction in Greece. But we're lagging behind. We're lagging far behind. And you can see this from the very simple things like recycling. We recycle less than 10%, I think, something like this in Greece. Other countries have reached 90-95% in Northern Europe. And the issue here is twofold. Is education, which is something that needs to be addressed from when a child is in nursery school, and we know we have a problem with education in this country, especially public education, and the other part is government. Like, I'm based in Luxembourg, and Luxembourg made the bold decision in March 2020 to make public transportation free for everyone. So whenever you get on a bus, you get on the tram, you get on the local train, it's free. Why did they do that? Because, well, first of all, they were not earning enough money. The whole thing was losing money anyway. Because they have like buses every 10 minutes, every 15 minutes, the bus drivers are paid very well, or the buses I knew, they're electric or hybrid. It's beautiful. And the ticket used to cost €2. This was financially completely unsustainable. So the government said, okay, let's give this for free to the people and see what happens. What happened is that a lot of people who couldn't find a parking space in the center of Luxembourg gave up their cars and started riding the electric buses. I drove my 4,000cc car to come here today. I drove from Vula. Okay, I've converted it to liquid natural gas, which is a little better. But I drove from Vula to here, because if I wanted to take a bus to come here, it would take me 3 days. And probably I would come here and I would smell really funky. So one part is consumer behavior, and that starts with education. My generation was not educated on sustainability. This generation has to be educated on sustainability, the generation of the school. And the other part, though, is what your government is doing, because how citizens act also has to do with how your government acts. And if my government puts a blue recycling bin and a green recycling bin on the street 24 hours a day, yeah, it's bound that somebody's going to drop the wrong thing in the blue bin and it's going to go to waste, and then it's going to, we need better planning. And that can only happen in local government, in municipalities, and in central government. And we don't seem to have that. So education and government is two things we're lacking in this country.
That you're absolutely right, and we faced that recently. You want to do things, and organizations want to do things, and you cannot go through because of the lack of infrastructure. So this is also pretty important. Mr. Evach mentioned earlier education. So, Stella?
Yes. I will agree and disagree with some of the things that they were said. I will share my experience from the contact with the young generation, with the contact that I have every year for the past few years, every day, sorry, for the past few years. I would say that there is change, that children of today, our students today, are very different. They have very different perceptions and very different behavior, more environmentally friendly behavior, more sustainable behavior in comparison to students 5 years ago. I'm not talking about our generation, I'm not talking about when I was a student, I'm talking about the same generation with a few years gap. Today I see people who are around their 20s, that they are much more aware. They are engaged into sustainable practices. They want to learn more. They want to be part of the solution. Of course, this is not happening by chance. There are many reasons behind that. One reason is education. There is the realization that we must do something from early ages. So subjects that they are related to sustainability, to environment, to equity, they have been introduced even in primary schools in a very different and new way, innovative way, in comparison to how those issues and concepts were taught 5 and 10 years back. There are even new subjects in primary school, in secondary school, that they relate to sustainability. There are subjects that they try to teach concepts in a holistic and in an interdisciplinary way, rather than individual disciplines. There is the need for all of us to change, because we face the problems. Of course, we are all witnesses of climate change. We're experiencing climate change. Something that I very often say to my students when I was studying, I'm an environmental scientist, and I was studying this topic in the 1990s in Scotland. There were many more deniers of climate change than the people who would talk about climate change. And all of us who were studying environment, we were considered like the crazy tree huggers, that we are romantics, we are the neo-hippies, and we could not be taken very seriously. This concept, this perception has changed today. And it has changed, unfortunately, in a violent way. It has changed because we face the problems. So everybody accepts that climate change is here. Everybody feels that they have to do something, they have to be part of the solution, and this has affected opinions and it has affected behavior. We see that the global governance is changing. Regulations are here. We have regulations. At least here in European Union, we have very good frameworks for sustainability and for the protection of nature, environment, and the planet. We have regulations, we have legislation, we have the Green Deal, which is a very big priority of European Union that emphasizes on how are we going to live better under the conditions of climate change, how are we going to combat climate change, also addressing the concept of circular economy, of reducing our greenhouse gases. We have investment priorities and research priorities in European Union that they are related to those issues. The biggest funds in European Union go to environmental protection, to protection of the planet, and to climate change. We have climate laws in all European countries. We have the very big research programs of Horizon, which are focusing a lot on social and environmental aspects. We are talking about huge amounts of money that they are given to countries, organizations, several partners. We have the framework of ESGs that was mentioned earlier that comes to replace the CSR. It is a more concrete framework with clear indicators for businesses. So there is a regulation, and there is a regulation to which Greece also has to adapt. The problem in this country is implementation, is not regulation. We have the framework, we need to work more on implementation at governmental level, at state level, I would say, not governmental, not to be misinterpreted, at state level, but also at individual level. At the level that is related to our work, to our businesses, to our investments, to our everyday work and output that we try to have through our jobs. So it is mainly implementation and bringing people together towards this line.
There is hope after all, but we have a long way to go. Let's hope that Greece stops being the last in adapting EU regulations and move a bit forward more quickly. One last comment from everyone. Mr. Bach.
So, just a quick question here. Can you raise your hand if you're under 30? Perfect. Okay. All right, so whoever raised your hands, you're going to be the ones who are going to face all the problems that we are creating today. Okay? Because 30 years from now, I'll be in my 80s. I don't know if I'm going to be around, but 30 years from now, you're going to be in your 60s or 50s, and you're going to be facing all the big problems around climate change on this planet. So if you raise your hand, you are the ones who now have the power and not just the power, but the mandate to make the changes necessary so that climate change doesn't go over 2 degrees. Because, you know, if you read, and one of the things you should all do is read about climate change, educate yourselves about climate change. Read anything you can get your hands on from credible sources on climate change, books. Like, I recently read Bill Gates' book, and it's incredible, it's great. I highly recommend it. So instead of, you know, watching too much Survivor or whatever people watch nowadays, spend a few hours a week reading books about climate change and understanding what's happening. And it's the small things that will make the difference. Because if we all make small little changes in our life, in the way we dress ourselves, in the way we eat less meat, buy less Zara, buy more B Corp products. I mean, Pivita has great products and it's a B corporation, so already you have a seal of approval. Drink Nespresso if you drink coffee. You know, support companies that are doing the right thing, and they're doing it certifiably, not claiming they're doing the right thing. Learn what greenwashing is. Understand greenwashing and avoid it. You know, there's the biggest plastic polluter on the planet, a company that makes soft drinks, you know, has committed to be plastic free by 2030, 20. I don't care what they're going to do 20 years from now. We're sinking in plastic now. You know, address the issue today. It's going to cost more money, yes, and the shareholders are going to lose a little bit. So, yeah, but address it now. So, it's better to do a few things a little better. Don't try to do everything perfectly, but we all have a responsibility to make a little change. If we don't, all together, we're all going to sink together. It's as simple as that.
Thank you very much. Mr. Iliopoulos, one last advice, comment?
I agree with everything you said. Perfectly said. And you guys have been a great audience. And this has been a great discussion. Now, the only thing I want to add is that each one of us potentially holds in his hands a great power. There's a great potential in each person anywhere. The thing is to tap this potential, to believe that you are capable to create an effect, and to create the effect that you want to create, like to go ahead and do it, find the courage, be the change. I'm not necessarily advising everyone to like create a new movement or open a new organization like we do in Greece, you know, like every person has a company. No. If you find something that represents your ideals and your beliefs, and you see that they're doing a good job, support them, be a part of them. I would personally do that. Like, if I could find somebody doing what we were doing 4 years ago, I didn't have any crazy desires to create something. You know, I was living a perfectly fine life with my businesses, but I couldn't find it, so I had to do it. Now, so the last comment I have to say is that the only thing you can do that is the most strong of everything is do nothing. So do anything towards the direction that you feel this world has to change.
This is great and inspiring. So Deree?
Actually, I had something completely different in my mind for the closing remarks, but Albertos, besides a great businessman and speaker, is also an influencer. I don't know if you are active on social media, but I would like to refer to the results of research, a recent research in 344 European companies from three different sectors, including cosmetic sector. And the results are quite shocking because the European Commission published that 59% of these companies could not provide support documentation to support their sustainability claims. The claims they made on social media, on LinkedIn, on website, wherever. And at the same time, the European Commission has reasons to believe that 42% of these companies reach or exceed the limits of greenwashing. You know, fake news, fake facts, fake indicators, misleading KPIs, fake sustainability claims do not help the companies, do not help sustainability, do not help societies. Paul Polman recently wrote an amazing book. I strongly suggest you to buy it online and read it. He talks about net positive companies. I don't know if Planet Foods, right, is a net positive companies. Net positive companies, according to Paul Polman, are the companies who give more than they take. I'm not sure if today's business model can afford companies, net positive companies, but I am pretty confident that there are a few companies out there that they do not want to be the best in the world, but to become the best for the world. This is the message that unites all the big companies worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you. Stella?
Yes. What to say? I will also start. I will also say a few things based on what it was said before. I will start with the greenwashing, a very, very big issue. Greenwashing and fake news. They are all around us. There were a lot of fake news that were going around, not only regarding companies, but also in the past 2 years regarding the pandemic. There was this huge wrong belief that the planet had benefited from the pandemic. Maybe for 1 month of the strict lockdown we had a drop in the air pollutants and the level of air pollutants, but this was accelerated once the strict lockdown went away, because then we were all encouraged to use our own car and drive our own car with one person in it or with 2 persons. Heating was not used in central buildings, but we had decentralized heating sources all around Athens, if we talk about this city. So we had more air conditions working than we would have had if people were working in their own jobs inside their buildings. The plastic pollution accelerated. We had tons of plastics that ended up in the oceans, masks, single-use items which cannot be recycled, and they harm the environment and the society to a very big extent. And still we could hear about news fake news that the environment had benefited from the pandemic. So why do I mention all this? Again, the answer to everything is education. Not just formal education. Here at ACG we offer formal education, but our personal education is our own hands. So we all have to search for answers, to search for truth, to read books, be very selective on what we read, what we choose to read, what we choose to believe more than what we read. So we all have to be alert to identify incidences of greenwashing, of fake news, to identify the truth and identify the way to act. And of course, we have to try and do things. Every little matters on this planet. We are 8 billion people. If each of us is doing a little bit, a small thing, all the 8 billion efforts make a huge effort to make our life on this planet better. So that would be my message for the end.
Thank you. Of course, we should stop being only anthropocentric and be more all species-centric, because we must not forget that we are not only, humans are not only the ones that occupy this planet. So I would like to thank each one of you and all of you for this fruitful discussion, and I hope we have in the future more opportunities to follow up on this. So at this point, I would like to call on the stage the speakers of the second panel, They will talk to you about circular economy,